Well, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I was actually thinking about what to talk about today a few days ago. And I thought, why not starting from a memory? And so the first thing that I would like to ask you is to stop and think about the last time you had a good service experience. Take your time. To me, it took quite a while. I mean, it took me probably 20 minutes before I actually focused on the one, service experience that I, really loved. And at the end, I landed on the last time that I subscribed to my latest car. So I decided not to buy a new car, but to subscribe to a new model of car. And this car is called Lynk & Co. It's produced by the same group that owns Volvo. And for me, it was very interesting because I was really, in two minds. On one side, I really needed a car for certain things in my life to bring my son to school. But on the other side, I really did not want to commit to, buying a car and everything that comes with that, the insurance, the taxes, the road tax. And I live in the Netherlands, actually, so I don't speak the language there. So I did not want to get into all these, complicated things. And I was just trying and think, what is a good way for me to have a car without actually needing to buy a car? And I discovered this company who actually seems like they've created a service just exactly for people like me. They're saying, you don't need to own a car. You don't need to handle all of the, hassle that comes with owning a car. You can subscribe month to month. You can use it as long as you need it. The car is yours. And as soon as you don't want it anymore, you just give it back to us. And we will, figure out all of the rest. We'll take care of all of the other things. And so I said, okay, sounds like a great value proposition for me. It's exactly what I need. So I subscribed to the thing online and everything was super smooth. Everything was, explained really clearly. It took me probably 5 minutes. And the good thing there is that they try and reduce all of the possible frictions. So one of the things that I really did not want to do was to choose a model and a color and, whether you want the glass ceiling or not. And they just eliminated all of that. So they said, you know what, we're going to have just one car and we call it Model 1. And you can have it in blue or black. That's the only choice you can make. And I was like, great, I want it blue. I ordered the thing online. I received a beautiful email back with all the explanation of where I was going to get this car. And since then, every single encounter that I had with these organizations was incredibly smooth. I mean, it felt like they really thought about the end-to-end experience from a customer perspective. So every time I was, talking with someone at the phone or receiving an email or actually, riding the car, every single touch point felt that it was really designed around me to really reduce friction. And even when I had a small accident, and I called with my app, it just didn't work. And I called the customer service. The guy at the phone was incredibly friendly. And he said, you know what, I don't quite know why this thing is not working. I'm going to check it and then call you back. And in half an hour, he called me back and he had all of the things fixed. And every single time, was incredibly friendly. And also at one point they called me saying, hey, your car needs maintenance. Are you okay if tomorrow morning we come, you pick your car and we give you another one? So you have this other car that looks exactly the same. It's still blue. And you will just, send it to servicing, check whether everything is okay, and it will come back in the evening. And so every single encounter felt incredibly smooth. And so for me, that was, an ideal experience from a customer's perspective. There is no friction. I know what's going to happen next. It's incredibly transparent, pricing as well. It's a kind of value proposition that really fits my current needs. But as we probably all know, that is very often not the experience we have when, interacting with organizations. And probably more often than otherwise, we have bad service experiences. And so I have been spending pretty much like my entire career looking at how can we support organizations to deliver better customer-centric services by design. So how can design really help with his, mindset and methodology to really change the way organizations deliver value to their customers and improve it. And so in this kind of 15 years, let's say, I learned 5 things. So these are the 5 things that any customer-centric organization should be able to do. Unfortunately, most of the time they are not, because they're not customer-centric, so they're not able to do this. But I've listed these 5 things here, and now I'm going to try and run you through it one by one, sharing a bit what is that the learning and bringing together with that learning a small case from one of the organizations I've been working with in this last, the cases are quite recent there, since 5 years ago, up to now, basically. Okay, so the first thing that I've learned that a customer-centric organization needs to have a clear and shared view of what customers are trying to get done. And it seems a very simple thing, but actually, every time I start working with a new organization and I ask this question, do you have a view of what customers are trying to get done? The answer is usually no. They have journeys here and there of parts of the experience, part of the service offering, but it is usually lacking like an end-to-end view of all of the things that the customers, are trying to get done in their specific, work and life. And usually the maps that I find in organizations are usually written from a very inside-out perspective. So they're written from the perspective of the organization with language such as onboarding. But a customer doesn't onboard, an organization onboards a customer, right? What a customer does is that, it starts a relationship with a new brand. It becomes a client of that brand, right? So the first thing that is kind of fundamental is having the map of the land that shows what customers are trying to get done with a language that is customer-centric, that tells the story and the experience from that specific perspective. And so here on the right of this slide, you see one of those maps that, we usually create with our clients when at the beginning of such, customer-centric transformations. We call this journey architecture. And basically, what this is, this client is kind of a digital platform providing support for SMEs, so small and medium businesses that need to, pay their taxes and have a payroll. It's quite a range of services that they offer for SMEs to run their business in one single app. And so in this specific view, what you see is basically in blue on the top is all of the things that customers are trying to do, like start a business and conduct their business, manage their business. And underneath those phases, let's say, there are all of the different journeys that these people might go through. So under conduct a business, one of the key journeys, for example, is sell products and services, right? Below that, in green, it's third parties. It's like other businesses that might support them, for example, an accountant and a bookkeeper that they work with in order to get to a specific outcome. And we also mapped what are the kind of experiences and journeys that this specific group goes through. And so this is like in one picture, all of the possible journeys that direct customers and, this in between B2B client might go through. And it's written in a language that is very customer-centric. So it's a language that they would use as customers. And so it very quickly becomes an object that is quite agnostic to any individual silo of the organization because it really speaks an outside-in language. The second thing that I've learned customer-centric organizations should be able to do is to align toward one single vision for the customer experience. Usually when I go around and, when I start working with clients, I really spend some time, having coffees with people and, having little chats and trying to understand how people, work out what they do and what they're trying to do for their customers. And very rarely I find alignment towards one vision of what is the thing, the North Star that we are going after. And in my experience, this is something that is quite fundamental. So having different teams aligned independently from, where they're sitting in the organization, whether they're client facing or not. So it could be HR, it could be strategy, it could be digital, it could be finance even. So we are here to do what? To deliver what kind of experience? What is our North Star as an organization? And this should be created with different people from different sides of the organization, shared and understood by all, right? This picture that you find here on the right is a specific case from Adidas. We've been working with Adidas for about 5 years now. And this is like one representation in one picture with a very few words. So what is the North Star for 2025? What kind of experience, what is the concept of the experience that they want to deliver for the customer? So this is kind of the starting point picture for any conversation that has, anything to do with the customer across the organization. So there is a high level of alignment around what is the thing that we're trying to deliver here. This picture should then, become the starting point to start solve and create for the customer's whole journey. So what very often happens is that organizations go after solving, fixing, improving the experience in a slice of the journey, right? Which is owned by a specific, department or team. Well, the key here is to have at every single time an understanding of what is the end-to-end journey that the customer is trying to, go through, and in what way, as an organization, you're supporting that journey, right? And so again, here in this picture is an example from Adidas, and at the top you will see like the customer journey that we were working with at that specific point. And below that, there are all of the different initiatives, key interactions that, needed to be developed to support that North Star, that end-to-end journey. And if you notice, like the three kind of swim lanes that you find here to really differentiate the types of interactions are the same as the three objects that you find here: shopping more consciously, receiving meaningful personalization. So this then get detailed into a more granular level, down into what are the actual interactions end-to-end that will allow us to deliver on that concept, on that vision. And that also becomes an incredibly powerful tool to connect strategy and implementation, right? So if you have a clear understanding of what you're aiming to deliver from a customer perspective in terms of experience, that view should become the anchor for our strategic initiatives as well as for our implementation plan. So in what way are these different teams going to work together to deliver on this higher level vision? And so different teams will look at this map from a different perspective. So here, if you see in the gray zone and at the bottom of this picture, there are operational requirements, right? There could be, systems, it could be technology related, or could be also policies and processes. So different teams working at different levels. We look at this map in different ways, but all of them will have the possibility to actually see how do they sit vis-a-vis everyone else. In what way my work here in this technology bit feeds into this higher vision and higher level, vision that we all share, right? The fourth thing that a customer-centric organization should be able to do is to talk about customer outcomes, the customer outcomes that they're trying to achieve. Very often, still today, actually, it happens that, we have clients coming saying, hey, our objective is to become number one at NPS, cross sector, for example, right? And NPS is great. NPS is a metric. But my question is usually, to what end and what is your vision? What are the actual outcomes you're trying to deliver for your customer? Because NPS as such is a number that doesn't tell anything about the kind of experience that you are delivering to your customers. And so what I really always try to do is to shift the conversation from the one number, whatever the one number is. I'm making the example of NPS, but I could bring many others, to to a conversation that is more about the outcomes that you want to achieve for your customers, and to use that as an anchoring point to start discussing, okay, what are the business outcomes that we're trying to achieve? Can you articulate that in like 3 sentences? And what are the operational outcomes that we're trying to achieve? And so we try and force organizations in that kind of conversation to really talk about the things that you want to see happening from these 3 different perspectives. And more recently, we are adding a 4th lens, which is sustainability, to really get an understanding of where should be the energy of our organization. What are the things that are really fundamental for this business to really work? And so here on the right, you see an example of this measurement framework that we created for a very large investment bank in the US, where we really tried and pushed this conversation around outcomes. And this is a framework that has been created with many different employees across all sorts of different pockets of the organization, because this has to be a representation of an organizational lens, not necessarily of a kind of functional department lens, right? So what you will find here is things like confident from a client perspective, confident that my needs have been understood, so that, you know, I have on the other side, my bank is listening to what I am trying to do and understands the needs that I have, or, you know, easy interactions, transparent and efficient. From a business outcomes perspective, a few examples are, you know, satisfied customer will recommend the bank to others, so word of mouth, or, you know, increase business, more business. And from an operational perspective, could be, you know, standardized but flexible processes. You know, one of the key things that was happening there was automation, for example, right? And really trying to standardize specific processes while keeping it flexible for the team to be able to work with it. So that is one aspect, the outcomes. And the other extreme of it, which is, you know, point number 5, is being able to attach a metric to the specific outcome. So basically being able to know, are you performing against those outcomes that you have defined? And so we have kind of a process that we have set up in the last, you know, 5 years to help the transition from outcomes to metrics. That really looks first at the definition of the outcome, which in itself is quite, you know, some work, but then looks at what are the signals that can tell us whether as an organization we are reaching those outcomes or not. And on the basis of that, what is the 1 or 2 or 3 numbers? What is the metric that we can actually track that can tell us that? And so with this specific bank, what we've been doing is we've done this work, we've connected outcomes to metrics in collaboration with our own number of teams, first of all, with data analytics. We've then translated that into a quite simple dashboard that they created for themselves, that they were using to actually track whether they were meeting those outcomes or not, and in what way. And so that then became a tool for prioritizing initiatives. So what are the initiatives that you actually need to prioritize in order to meet those customer outcomes? And so one of the very first questions that I ask when I enter an organization is, how do you make decisions? On the basis of what you make decisions, and how is customer experience actually informing the prioritization process? And so this view here then became the way they started making decisions as a business at a leadership level, to really start understanding what are the highest impact areas, and what are the initiatives that can, you know, help us achieve those outcomes. And I'm done. Now I would love to hear some of your questions or comments and have a conversation.